accepting more for yourself. There are no boundaries to your happiness, divine abilities, and expressions of gratitude, if only you surrender resistance to accepting the truth. No one has more access to happiness, divine creativity, or greatness than you do. We all share an equal access to infinite joy, fulfillment, and peace. There is nothing um, actually to change, fix, or do out there in the world in order to actualize our happiness. The real solutions are all within you. You only need to allow them to come to you. You are the one in control of how much you resist or how much you receive. Nothing else needs to change but yourself. When we resist our lives, we create greater separation from the truth of who we really are. The more separate we feel from our true self of love or joy, the more powerless we feel. And the more powerless we feel, the more we suffer. We are inviting you to demonstrate your love for yourself by waking up to your own power. Accept that no one and no thing outside of yourself can ever steal your peace or your joy ever again. It's not about what has happened to you, it's how you decide to respond that determines the quality of your life. This is your life, and only you are in control of how it is experienced. Although it may be uncomfortable at first, the truth will set you free. The world we live in um, is the world we choose to live in, whether consciously or unconsciously. If we choose bliss, that's what we get. If we choose misery, we get that too. Tony Robbins. Exploring our resistance. Maybe your mind is thinking, but my story is worse or different, or this doesn't apply to me because. Fill in the blank with your mind's favorite rationalization as to why you can be happy and free right now, and you will see your own resistance clearly. That person, that situation, that past event, or future worry, whether your story is your attachment to it, whatever your story is, your attachment to it is the very thing blocking you from the true freedom and lasting happiness you're seeking. The first spiritual trap is to perceive your happiness as outside of yourself. The good news is the rationalizations you are experiencing are just stories your mind is telling you, which means they are not intrinsically or objectively true. They are just one opinion and perspective out of infinite possibilities. We can always choose to see our past or current situation from a different perspective, and in so doing, everything about it changes. For example, we can see our setbacks as sign of our own weakness and inability, or we can see them optimistically as signs of growth, change, and evolution. It's not the setback itself that determines our experience of it, but our perspective. As we continue along this journey together, you will see that your mind's insistence on blaming things outside of yourself as the reason for your suffering is something that we all innocently inherited as part of being human. Have compassion for yourself as you explore your own resistance to being truly happy, and just know your resistances do not define you. There's something you are experiencing, but they're not who you are. Doing the inner work means your shadows will be revealed to you in order to be understood, accepted, and finally released and transcended. It is important, however, to point out that your shadows will continue to evolve as you do, and so you must always maintain humility and vigilance of any possible new blind spots as you progress. Every stage of human evolution has its own obstacles and temptations to be aware of. Therefore, inner work is an overall lifestyle approach, not something to attain or a destination to arrive at. Knowing the tendency of the mind, you must be kind to yourself in order to fully heal any wounds you uncover. The best way to find compassion is to see that your experiences are impersonal and not actually about you, but just what you're experiencing. Do not confuse the limiting internal dialogue inside your mind as the ultimate reality. One of our favorite Sanskrit mantras to repeat is nati nati, meaning not this. I'm not my past. I'm not my trauma. I'm not this fear. I'm not this thought. I'm not this guilt. I'm not this doubt. I'm not this story. In order to be reborn as your true self, which is free from rationalizations and excuses, and to accept the infinite peace we speak of, you must release attachment to the false identity and resistances in your mind. Um, Resistances your mind has constructed over your lifetime. This may be difficult to do at first due to the fact that an untamed mind will fight to reinforce its past programming. The defensiveness is not personal, just how the mind works. Themes of consciousness like shame, guilt, hopelessness, grief, fear, desire, anger, or pride become so familiar to us that the mind strives to defend its belief systems through an incessant internal dialogue. This constant inner dialogue of thoughts will reinforce, support, and seek validation for its perspectives. And unless we become aware of what actually is taking place, we will never be able to move from it. Know that uprooting this mental narratives would mean that the death of identity the mind has worked so hard to formulate, and so we must have compassion during this revealing process. We all have accumulated rationalizations as to why we can possibly be so loved, accepted, happy, and free as we are. The mind says things like, don't embarrass yourself, you're not good enough, you'll just fail. What will they think about you? The mind tells us we can only be happy when other people or our circumstances change. If he would just ask me to marry him, if she would just stop nagging me, if I had more money, if I had paid my debt, if I moved. The internal dialogue even tries to convince us that we need to struggle and fight for our deserved happiness. It's a cold, tough world out there. Better be the best if I want to be successful. There's not enough for everyone. Better earn it. They are my competition. These mental narratives of lack and limitation keep us from ever stepping outside of our conditioned theme of consciousness and experiencing something new and inspiring. Something so radical and awesome, not because it's special in any particular way, but only radical because so few people accept it for themselves. All have equal access to happiness and greatness. If experiencing true love, lasting joy, and inner peace are rare, it is only because so few have the courage to put down their suffering and have faith in the goodness of life. Commitment is key. Notice that even when we're right or the cusp of becoming a higher version of our potential, the boundaries within the mind keep us in check by convincing that we can't do it, it won't work, we'll look dumb, or it just wasn't meant for us. This probably won't work. I waited too long. What if I can't do it? This is just the way things are. I'm fine with it. I should just stop trying. We start to believe that we aren't one of the lucky, special people who get the privilege of being so happy and carefree. Must be nice to be them. They're just rich. If I had their life, I'd be happy. 2. They're just privileged. We then attribute blame to our conditions, circumstances, and even the world for this plight. The system's so corrupt. The world is unfair. Life is stressful and hard. My situation is different. This doesn't apply to me. I can't change. The most important realization of the inner work is that the mind's internal dialogue is the source of our dissatisfaction, not the subject of its complaints. Change is terrifying to the untamed mind. Even when exposed to true happiness through witnessing it in others, it will reject it outright through denial or projection. Most minds are actually very suspicious of someone emulating genuine innocence, unconditional love, and inner peace. Seeing someone else shine his or her light unapologetically can really trigger an insecure mind. They're so fake, they're so naive. They don't know what it's like to struggle. They just haven't had enough life experience yet. They'll see. So, although it is happiness and freedom you're seeking, it is important to recognize that even while you're yearning to elevate yourself, there's still a huge part of you, an ego, false identity, stuck in a limiting theme of consciousness that actually does not want you to succeed in awakening. The only enemy to ever exist is an eternal one, just hiding in the very last place you'd ever look, within yourself.